What's up guys, Saf here on SuperSaf TV, and this is the OPPO Find X3 Pro deep dive after 2 weeks. Big thanks to OPPO for sponsoring this video and also giving me 2 of these to share with you guys. Details of that will be later on in this video. So there's a lot to talk about. I'll leave some timestamps down below, but I want to start off with the design. I think the Find X3 Pro has a really unique design, and OPPO called this the impossible curve. We've got a contour finish which really blends into the cameras. I really like it, but I would say my overall favorite thing about the build and design of the Find X3 Pro is just how comfortable it is to use despite its large 6.7-inch screen size. So it's around 193 grams, and at its thinnest point, it's around 8.26 millimeters, which makes this one of the most compact smartphones with this screen size. And this is something that I think you'll definitely notice using this day to day. Now, of course, we do have IP68 water and dust resistance, and this is available in a glossy black, which looks pretty cool, but for me, it's definitely this matte blue finish. Like, you can see that. Look at that in the light. You cannot see any fingerprints. I've been putting my grubby paws on it completely and it's been absolutely fine. And that's because we have a anti-glare frost matte material process, which is a lot more fingerprint resistant than traditional finishes. Now, even compared to other smartphones which have a matte finish, this definitely attracts much less in terms of fingerprint. So something that I really do like. Now, let's talk about the cameras which are on this camera module. And there's a lot of unique things here. So we do have 2 main sensors, both for the primary as well as the ultra-wide camera. It is the Sony IMX766 sensor. And traditionally on smartphones, the ultra-wide camera will usually have an inferior sensor. It's just not going to be as good as the primary sensor. But this is something that's very unique on the Find X3 Pro. You get great results, lots of detail and dynamic range. Now, we also have a telephoto camera. This is 13 megapixels. It can give you 2 times optical zoom and 5 times hybrid zoom. It can go all the way up to 20 times digital zoom. I generally don't tend to use any more than 10 times, which does give you usable results. Now, the Find X2 Pro last year, granted, did have periscope zoom technology, so you did get more zoom. However, as nice as that is, I really didn't find myself using it. I like a bit of zoom on my smartphone, but I generally don't tend to use any more than 10 times. So for me, the Find X3 Pro zoom has been absolutely fine, and I'm glad OPPO opted for this year. And that's because it's allowed us to have a few more options. So the ultra-wide camera can also double up as a macro camera. So you can focus in around 4 centimeters and you get some really, really nice results at that high resolution. But then we've got something which I've not seen before on any other smartphone, and that is the microscope camera. Now, I'm going to put my hands up and say that I was very skeptical about this. I thought it's going to be a bit of a gimmick, but I have been using this more than any other camera on the Find X3 Pro over the past 2 weeks. So let me explain this and show you lots of examples. When you do activate the microscope camera, you get a ring light around this lens. Now, the reason for that is because you are literally going microscope. You can go into your t-shirts or whatever it is that you want to go zoom into. It's around 60 times, and it really gives you a different perspective, something that you're really not going to get with any other smartphone camera. It honestly opens up so many more possibilities, and that ring light really helps illuminate your subject because you're practically touching it. I mean, it's just millimeters of distance that you are away from whatever you, see I'm doing it again, whatever you are trying to photograph, you're literally millimeters away, and that ring light really does help. Now, this is 3 megapixels. I would have liked to have had a higher resolution just to give me a bit more flexibility, and this is the first time that this is included on a smartphone, so maybe we're going to be seeing some improvements later on. But 3 megapixels results in around 1944 by 1944 images, which is higher than HD. And what I found for microscope images is that they are great for wallpapers. So full HD is more than good enough for wallpapers. And that's something that I've absolutely loved using the microscope camera for. Another really cool thing on the Find X3 Pro is the fact that you can capture motion much more easily compared to other smartphones. So if you've got kids or a pet, you'll know that it's impossible for them to stay still. They just will not do it. And the Find X3 Pro is really good at noticing that and using a higher shutter speed to capture the image without any blurriness, which is something that I really do like. Now for the front-facing camera, there is a punch out and you can get some really nice detailed images with good dynamic range. I have found, however, when you are using portrait mode from the front-facing camera, then the dynamic range does go down a little bit. So I hope this can be improved with a software update. Also, we have just 1080p from the front-facing cameras, but I would have liked to have had 4K. The main rear-facing cameras can film at 4K. Now, OPPO calls this the billion color smartphone. And that is because, firstly, the cameras can capture 10-bit color, which gives you essentially over 1 billion colors. So on the camera, you do have the option of saving 10-bit HEIF files. Now, you will get to notice that this format will not be supported across all devices because it is still a little bit ahead of its time. But one device that you will be able to view these absolutely fine is, of course, the Find X3 Pro. Did you like how I did that smooth transition into talking about the display? Now, let me just say that this has one of the best displays in the market right now. 6.7 inches, small bezels with a punch out, Quad HD plus resolution with 1300 nits of peak brightness. So what that basically means is if you're like me and you're always wearing sunglasses and you are out on a bright sunny day, you're still going to be able to see everything clearly. Now we have up to billion colors supported because this is a 10-bit display. So things look absolutely stunning. We also have 100% DCI-P3 color, which basically means colors are also very, very accurate as well. And all of that, along with the stereo speakers that support Dolby Atmos, give you a great viewing experience. You still have the Ultra Vision engine, which can enhance your standard dynamic range videos to high dynamic range videos. But I would say my favorite thing about the display of the Find X3 Pro is the fact that you've got LTPO technology. What does that mean? Well, the Find X3 Pro does have a 120 Hz refresh rate, and that makes things super smooth. Alongside the Quad HD plus resolution, you also get very sharp results. But here's the thing with a high refresh rate. You don't always need a high refresh rate. Right now, the screen is static. There's really nothing going on. Maybe you're on a web page and you're reading and you're not actually scrolling. You don't need 120 Hz. Well, with the LTPO technology, the Find X3 Pro can go all the way down to just 5 Hz, and that saves a lot of battery life. And then when you do start scrolling, or if you're gaming or anything, then it can switch automatically back to 120 Hz. And this has a big impact on battery life. And I've been getting great battery life on the Find X3 Pro. I'm looking at around 6 hours of screen on time. That's my usual day-to-day use. I spend a lot of time on my smartphone. And bear in mind that this is at the max settings. This is using the 120 Hz with Quad HD plus resolution. So I've been very happy with the battery life on the Find X3 Pro. It does have a 4500 milliamp hour battery, but you've also got 65 watt SuperVOOC charging included out of the box. That's something that we really don't see much of these days. That's gonna give you a full 100% top up in around 34 minutes. But generally speaking, you can just put this on charge while you're in the shower and you're gonna be good to go for the rest of the day. Now with the Find X2 Pro, one of the things that was missing, and I did find myself missing a little bit, was the lack of wireless charging. Well, you'll be pleased to know that the Find X3 Pro now does have wireless charging, and this is 30 watt AirVOOC charging, which can give you a 100% charge in around 84 minutes. Now, you will need a specific charger if you do want those higher speeds, something that's capable of pushing out those higher speeds, but this is going to work absolutely fine on a standard Qi wireless charger. And especially if you're going to be charging this overnight, you're not necessarily going to need those higher speeds. You can just drop this on a wireless charger and wake up to it fully charged, which is generally what I've been doing. Now, you also do have reverse wireless charging, and this is at 10 watts, which I believe is the fastest on any smartphone right now. Basically, you can use the Find X3 Pro to charge another device. Maybe you've got some earbuds that you want to charge in the back of the Find X3 Pro. Well, you can do that, and you can do that at up to 10 watts. Generally, Qi wireless charging is at around 7.5 watts, so this is actually faster than most Qi wireless chargers out there. Right, now let's talk a little bit about the performance. So the Find X3 Pro is powered by, of course, the latest and greatest Qualcomm Snapdragon 888 5G chipset. We've got 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, as well as 256 gigabytes of storage. And there's no confusing options or anything like that. You're not going to start off with a smaller storage version. This is the version that's available, so you can just be assured that you're going to be getting the best in terms of the internals. And performance has been absolutely great, especially with the 240 Hz touch sampling rate and the 120 Hz refresh rate. If you're gaming, you're going to be absolutely fine. I've gamed a lot on here and it's been very, very smooth. And just your day-to-day is very, very good. And another thing that the Find X3 Pro has is support for up to 13 5G bands, which is amongst the highest on any flagship smartphone. What that essentially means is when you're traveling, when we're allowed to travel again, then you're going to have 5G support in pretty much most areas that you go to. Now let's talk about the software experience. So the Find X3 Pro comes with ColorOS 11.2 on top of Android 11. Now ColorOS has come a long way, especially since last year, and it brought lots of useful features to OPPO smartphones. I've actually done a detailed video on ColorOS highlighting some of its key features. I'll link that video in the cards and down in the description. But just to touch on a few, one thing that I really like on the Find X3 Pro is quick launch. So when you unlock your Find X3 Pro, you can actually set some shortcuts. So you can just swipe up and you can have up to 5. These can be shortcuts to your most used apps, or also your most used functions. Maybe there's somebody that you always message. Well, you can open that up right away and go straight into your thread in your favorite messaging app. This is something that's really small, but super, super useful. We've got lots of privacy options, and if you do have images and documents that you want to add an extra layer of security to, then you can have these password protected. And then we've also got System Cloner, which is really useful if you're going to be using the Find X3 Pro for personal as well as work use. For example, you can have pretty much 2 different interfaces on the Find X3 Pro. We've got 3-finger translate, so if you do want to translate something on a page, you can just swipe down with 3 fingers and then select translate to translate that text. Super useful little features. Once again, I will link that video in the cards and down in the description. So that is the OPPO Find X3 Pro. I think this is certainly one of the best smartphones of the year, and I'm glad OPPO partnered with me for this video and also to share 2 of these with you guys. Details of that will be down in the description. What do you guys think of the Find X3 Pro? Definitely let me know in the comments below. If you want to find out more or pick one of these up, there will also be a link down there. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do hit that thumbs up button for me. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss any future coverage. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV. I'll see you next time.